Okay, thank you. Great. So I'd like to call the MWPA board meeting of July 15th, 2021 to order. Allison, will you please call the roll? Make sure that we have a quorum present.
Salinas Fire District,
Present.
City of Mill Valley,
Here.
City of San Rafael,
Here.
City of Larkspur,
Here.
County of Marin,
Here.
Inverness Fire District,
Here.
Kentfield Fire District, Marinwood Community Services District,
Here.
Muir Beach Community Services District,
Here.
Novato Fire District,
Here.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District,
Here.
Southern Marin Fire District,
Here.
Stinson Beach Fire District,
Here.
Town of Corte Madera,
Here.
Town of Fairfax,
Here.
Town of Ross,
Here.
Town of San Anselmo.
Here.
A quorum is present with 97% of the membership.
Oh, excellent. Wonderful. Let's move to item 3, agenda adjustments. Are there any requests to adjust the order of the agenda by board members? And I am seeing none. Let's move to item 4, open time for public expression. So the public is welcome to address the board at this time on matters not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the board. Please be advised that pursuant to government code, the board is not permitted to discuss or take any action on any matter not on the agenda. Comments may be no longer than 3 minutes and should be respectful to the community. And please, everyone, again, silence your cell phones during the meeting, and all please unmute your mic when you're not reporting out. Opportunity for public expression.
To delete all old messages, delete it.
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank all. Let's move to Executive Officer's report. Mark Brown, Executive Officer, please provide the staff report on this item.
Good afternoon, President Goins, board members. I will try to be as brief as I can, but there's a lot to talk about, just based on everything that's going on. A fire update. I'm sure most of you realize we had 2 vegetation fires in Marin yesterday. One was a very small one on Hannah Ranch Road in Novato, which is a place where Novato Fire receives frequent nuisance fires, would be a good way to describe them. But it was contained quickly. The largest fire was a 33-acre fire in Nicasio that started on the roadside. And great example of aircraft being only as good as the people that are on the ground. They had a momentary stop of the head with the aircraft, but the ground resources weren't able to get there to support that drop with a hose lay fast enough. So the fire was able to chew through the retardant and burn for another 20 acres before we can get more aircraft in. But the good news is it was all grass and brush and absolutely positively no threat to any structures. So it was a good exercise of the fire response system here in Marin. Statewide, we do have 2 strike teams from the county. So a total of 10 engines, 5 engines per strike team that are assigned to different incidents. We do have what's called overhead positions. They're like management positions on the fire that are deployed. We even have some that went to Oregon to support the fires that are in Oregon. But rest assured that we still have very strong coverage here in Marin to respond to any incidents that we may have here. Across the state, there are 5 large incidents that account for 114,000 acres that are burning. The largest is the Beckworth fire. It's about 100,000 acres. Megan had an up close view of that during her vacation. And there is a new fire in and near the campfire footprint. It's at about 2,000 acres. And the federal incident management teams have deployed 2 teams here in California, but they've also deployed 3 teams up to support Oregon. But we still have good depth within the state of California for incident management teams. One thing I did want to share, and I did share during the executive committee meeting, was a hike that Bruce and I and Ann got to go on. It was with our One TAM partners. It started up at the top of Lagna's Rock Springs Road and went down towards Potrero Meadows, where MMWD has a great project going on, shaded fuel breaks and resource habitat restoration. And what it really showed is that forest restoration and wildfire prevention efforts are the same. There used to be a thought that they competed with each other, that good resource management was not good wildfire prevention and vice versa. But truly, that's not the case. And I think the project in MMWD is a good example of that. Very encouraging what we saw. However, it's sobering because there's so much more work that we need to get done. Bruce did ask me to put my firefighter's eye on what we had seen, and it's it's a shaded fuel break going down to Lagunitas Rock Springs Road. And as a 30-year firefighter in Marin, especially as a battalion chief and deputy chief, I fought that fire mentally many times. The fire that comes out of the Kent Woodlands or Mill Valley, and the Lagunitas Rock Springs Road was always going to be a place that we were going to hold that fire that was running around in my head. And prior to any vegetation management on that road, what it would take to hold that road and to hold that ridge that it's on would be a minimum of 4 strike teams of crews. So that's 8 crews total, 4 strike teams of dozers, 8. So that's 8 dozers, probably 3 to 4 strike teams of engines. Those are 5 each. And then a lot of time, plus resource damage. It would be a 4-blade wide dozer line going down to Lagunitas Rock Spring Road. All the vegetation would just be pushed over, pushed off to the side. That is if we can get that built in time before the fire got there. Now you fast forward to the work that MMWD has done on that line. And I think we could hold that line with 2 strike teams of crews. So a total of half the number of crews, 2 dozers instead of 8 dozers. And the dozers would not be there to construct line. They would be there only if we had a spot fire that went outside of the line. And maybe 1 or 2 strike teams of engines. And the beauty is we'd have the time to hold it. So not only is it good forest management, what MMWD is doing, it's good wildfire prevention. And then the net result is much better for the environment because there is no environmentally sound practices during the firefight. And so if we do the work in front, then we can help protect the environment both before the fire and also make the damages after the fire less. There's been quite a bit of discussion about fire breaks and how effective they are. There's been some recent articles that are talking about it. And personally, I think it is, we need to define what success is for a fuel break. I think a successful fuel break in moderate fire conditions stops the fire, or at least almost stops the fire and really gives the firefighters a chance. And we only have a spot fire or 2 on the other side of the line, we pick it up. But I think during high extreme conditions, we need to adjust what success looks like for a fuel break. They're probably not going to stop the fire. So a successful fuel break in those conditions, it decreases the fire behavior within that area, slows the fire spread down enough so that we can get our citizens evacuated in time. They have a safer environment to evacuate, and we can bring our firefighters in and give them a fighting chance to start saving structures within that area. Probably not stop the fire spread, but at least start saving lives and structures. The Institute for Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, IBHS, had a live test last night on fuel breaks. And both the tests, the fire did pass the fuel break. But if you watch it, you actually see that it slowed down. And it talks about those conditions, that it actually gives people a chance to get out safely, gives them a little bit more time to get out. Wanted to talk about our equity initiative that now has a full and official name. It's called the Fire Foundry. Fire being Fire, Inclusion, Recruitment, and Education Foundry. This is the partnership with Marin County Fire, the County of Marin, UC Berkeley, Stanford, College of Marin, and the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. The planning is moving forward much more effectively and efficiently than I had hoped, which is great. And we are looking to have our first group of recruits starting in January of 22. And the partnership with College of Marin has been phenomenal. And the amount of education that these folks are going to be able to receive, as well as creating a sustainable career path for our underserved communities. Very excited about what's going on. Zone Haven is it's operational right now. We could use it, and if we needed to do any large scale or even small scale evacuations, We are gearing up on a media campaign that will have 2 phases, soft launch here in this summer/fall, and at a very robust and aggressive campaign in April of next year. The good thing is we have all the zones built out. Our public safety officials know how to use it now, which puts us ahead of the curve of a lot of the areas that actually implemented Zone Haven during the fire. So we're a couple steps ahead. The emergency.marincounty.org website currently has all of the zones in the Zone Haven map embedded. If you go to emergency.marincounty.org, click on evacuations, you'll get that map. The development of our objectives and metrics is moving forward very well. We are in the process of creating an ad hoc subcommittee that will consist of 2 members from your operations committee, 2 members from the advisory technical committee. We'll have 1 person each from each of the 5 geographical areas. We'll make sure that we have a fire chief and a city manager in that group. And they will work with staff, take the goals that you guys have developed as the board, and start working on our objectives and metrics. First meeting should be in August. We plan on having a meeting every 2 weeks with a 2-month timeline to build the objectives and metrics. Currently, we're moving full speed ahead in implementing our communication strategy. We are finalizing a contract with a web development firm, and we are connecting that firm with Panorama, will be creating much of the data in our project tracking portion of that website, and with OneTam, who has the geospatial website that we plan to help leverage that site. We are creating the media campaign for Zone Haven. We've had some great earned media. We had a picture of one of our DSpace evaluator tags hanging from a door in USA Today. I thought that was kind of cool. And then I think you all saw my Marin Voice piece and received a lot of positive feedback with that. Work plan, that 1,051-page document that you all saw, and I promised that each member agency will have a packet that's specific to your member agency. That 1,051-page document's being broken apart into 17 documents right now. It's proving to be almost as hard to break it apart as it was to put together. So I do ask for a little bit of patience while staff works on creating that for you, but there will be a packet for each member agency. The ESP best management practices document and Panorama have reviewed it. We've actually taken some of the BMPs and included it in some of our environmental practices already. And legal is reviewing it at this time. Speaking of ESP, Ann gave a great presentation at the Marine Conservation League. I think that was well received. I was able to give a presentation with the North Bay Watershed Association with the idea that what's good for the watershed is also good for wildfire prevention and vice versa. And we feel that if we could partner with our flood control folks, water purveyors, and sanitation for some of the grant monies and state and federal funding that's coming about, that type of partnership would strengthen our ability to be able to bring some revenue in. I've been participating with the Association of Bay Area Counties, or governments, excuse me, in wildfire and housing focus group. And it's really in its infancy, but right now we're setting up a bunch of presentations for the members of the ad hoc subcommittee to start making recommendations to their local governments. And finally, we've been receiving a ton of positive correspondence, whether it's for our DSpace inspections. Ron Nasso sent us a very nice letter. Former Director Gerbsman sent us a very nice letter. I see Kingston Cole out in the audience. I want to give a shout out to him for an awesome letter to the editor talking about goat grazing on San Rafael Hill, and continue to get really positive comments and contact about our chipper days. And with that, I'm open to any questions from y'all.
Excellent. Barbara Kohler, see your hand up. Barbara.
Yeah, maybe just a comment. Thank you for all your presentations. I have a question, but also a suggestion. Some of you may know that our town manager, Garrett Toy, has moved on. And Adam Politzer, who was most recently city manager of Sausalito, is our interim town manager, and he started a couple days ago. He's going to be great. We don't know how long he'll be with us because we're hoping to recruit a full-time town manager. But I would suggest that, Mark, maybe you reach out to Adam to see if he can participate in operations, since he does know Marin County, not as familiar with Fairfax. So I think, you know, one of the reasons we're so excited to have him is he's so familiar with all these JPAs, even though Sausalito isn't a specific member. Maybe that might be a fit. And then the question I have, and thank you for splitting up the work plan into 17 documents. Is it correct to assume that it will be our specific work in our area, but also the core work that will impact the central Marin area for Fairfax in particular? So that's what we'll see, is a packet that covers everything. I see nodding of heads, so that's great that I assumed correctly. And is that going to go to the town managers? How is that going to go out?
I was going to distribute it to the board members, and then I can distribute to beyond to any of the staff that they would like me to distribute to as well. I was
And
also going to send it to the operations section, so that would get some of the town managers, but not all of them.
Okay, so just one follow-up question. Is it going to go out in an e-version? Because I think that would allow us to distribute it more widely and maybe provide a place on our website, and then we can link to it for our newsletter. So an e-version, I mean, a hard copy would be great, but an e-version would be excellent for us to do a lot more with it. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, my intent was only an e-version, but if anyone wants a hard copy, I can facilitate that.
Thanks, Barbara. Great questions. And Mark, sounds like you've got this all under control. Other board members, any questions or comments about Mark's report? Hi, Catherine.
Hi, just a quick one. So you mentioned that you are working with ABAG Special Committee. Can you tell me what they're doing specifically? What you're doing with ABAG?
I would have to dig up my notes, but it's around creating sustainable housing in regard to wildfire, and much of what we are doing
Good.
with the MWPA is exactly what the information they're trying to get to implement throughout the rest of the Bay Area.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Sashi.
Sorry, I'm glad you're still paying attention to those things. I know you have a lot of experience in that area, so thanks for asking that. Mark, I just wanted to ask, I know it's great that you're breaking into 17 documents, but I wonder if how people would feel if in the future it could just be broken into the 5 zones. I think it's asking a lot to break everything up into the 17 things, and I think we should start thinking about things in terms of zones anyway. So I just wanted to ask you what you thought about in the future having things in terms of zones instead.
It's a great idea. 2 of the zones would virtually be the same already. It would be the Central Marin Zone, I think, has 9 agencies, so it might get a little convoluted for their zone. The Southern Marin Zone would end up with, well, 3.5 if you count County Fire. And County Fire would have a little pocket in almost every one of the zones, but we definitely could do it that way as well.
Just thinking about how to make it easy for people to use, but also not just churn a ton of staff time to do these kind of things. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sashi. Let's see, Julie McMillan, please. Hi, Julie.
Hi, thank you, Mark, for that presentation. I believe you said that the Zone Haven soft launch will be in the fall, but the broader aggressive launch won't be until the spring. And I'm just worried that I think it'd be great to do it as soon as possible. Maybe it's not ready. But the fall is the worst fire season. So my question is, could we do it earlier?
Well, and the soft launch, it's more of a medium launch. If I'm going to be honest, it's going to have a PSA video. We will have flyers and billboards, maybe not billboards in Marin, but bus advertisement. And we're going to lean on, we have every PIO in the county involved in this. So That includes every PIO for each of the member agencies, and also Tiburon and Belvedere included. So soft launch might be an inaccurate term. So we will be getting a comprehensive word out. It just won't be as comprehensive as April's.
Thank you, Julie. And Barbara, yes, Barbara Kohler.
Just one follow-up. I'm not disagreeing with Sashi, but I think I'm not so worried about staff time for these 17 documents. I know that people in Fairfax do not necessarily relate to a zone called Central Marin. And I think we need to get people more on board with what's happening in our specific cities that impact us. And maybe down the road, people will equate themselves to something called Central Marin or the other zones. But I'd rather that we spend the extra time and do that so people get more on board and they know what their tax dollars are being spent on. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Well, thanks for those comments and consideration. Mark, maybe, ponder that, and perhaps you can bring that to the executive committee and, for further discussion. We'll leave it to you. I think we're going to evolve as time goes on here.
And I think the die is already cast for the 17
Yes.
for this time. So it'll be a zone-based one might be for next year.
Okay. Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Gabe has his virtual hand up.
Okay. And go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Mark, just two really minor questions. One was on the Fire Foundry, about how many jobs are you looking at? What's the total number of billets there? And if you could just say a little bit more on the metrics subcommittee, what you see as the primary outcome and about how soon you'd want to see that delivered.
So for the Fire Foundry, we are partnering with, I forgot to add this, I'm sorry, but Conservation Corps North Bay will be an integral partner, and they will be the ones that through project funding, a lot of it from the MWPA, will be the kind of the host of our recruits. And we really, that is one part we haven't started talking about numbers yet, and we're looking for to diversify the level of experience that's in that group. So not every one of the people that are coming in are brand new entry level type people for this type of work in education. We want to find some people that are already partway through their education, so we have a little blend of experience and new people coming in. So the number of cadets, for lack or recruits, hasn't been determined yet. As far as objectives and metrics, we've given, or the ad hoc subcommittee has a copy of the objectives and metrics that we presented at the last board as a flavor and the direction to go. And so once they meet, I've asked them to deliver results in 2 months. And so that would be beginning of October that we would looking to see results from them.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Thank you, Mark, for your responses. And Mark Simpson Beach, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Bruce. Mark, just a question. Just curious about the Zone Haven app. Is that ready to go now, or is it going to be sometime in the future? I was under the impression you said it's ready for a soft launch now.
It's alive now and it can be used operationally now. And for people, the great thing about the way we're implementing Zone Haven, it has very little operational change to what we have been doing already. There's 3 phases of our media campaign, or 3 points that we're making. We have a plan, enroll for Alert Marin, and then know what zone you're in. And so the first 2 parts of that plan are already in place. It's the awareness for the residents, what zone they're in. And what we found, the Santa Cruz Lightning Complex, the fires in Sonoma County, if there's a significant fire, people learning what zone they're in happens very quickly. So we are in a place to successfully use it and actually be ahead of where the other counties were.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Marks. Other questions? Mark, I have a question for you. What's the timing of the evacuation analysis and the fire simulation modeling associated with evacuations in case of emergency? Where does that stand? What's your sense of timing?
We're about 90% done with the draft, and I believe in August, we'll be able to wrap up that final 10% with a release of the RFP shortly after that.
So the RFP for the bigger simulation, the Monte Carlo simulation of ignitions and weather and consequences, and to help inform our evacuation route clearing and the work that we're doing here. So that.
And it's far more than just the fire behavior. It will be also looking at the transportation infrastructure.
Yeah, that's right. How they interface. So you're saying maybe August-ish, you're saying?
August-ish for the release of the RFP.
Okay, thank you. That's a really important piece. And I've had several requests for that information. Great. Any other directors, questions or comments? I seeing none. Let's take public comment, please. Allison?
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Okay, thanks everyone. Great report, Mark, and great questions, board. Let's move on to the consent calendar, item number 6. So the opportunity for public comment on the consent calendar items will occur prior to the board's discussion of the consent calendar. And the board may approve the entire consent calendar, and one action as an alternative items can be removed by the board for separate discussion and a vote. Mark.
If I may add, President Goins, that we
Yes.
did update based on a suggestion from Director Kohler. Thank you very much for that suggestion to strengthen the language to protect our source code in the escrow portion of our agreement. And so we were able to connect with the provider over the last day and get a tentative agreement that they are good with that language. So I emailed the board. Some of you had email problems with their server, so you may not have gotten it, but I have, for our members of our public, I have also updated the website, the agenda packet on the website. So that is all available for anyone to read. And then I wanted to also send a thank you to Director Kurtz for all the work that she provided on the front end as we were developing that agreement.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you, Barbara and Rachel, both. Duly noted, Mark. Those were, substantial improvements based on board the director's input. So let's time to move on to public comment here. Do we have public wish to comment on the consent calendar, please?
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Okay, excellent. Do any board members wish to pull an item from the consent calendar?
This is Catherine. I have a question of Mark. Mark, is this the place where I asked about the contract? The supplier being in the definitions part, clearly the ownership of the data that's collected is MWPA's and not anyone else's.
That has been clarified, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for that clarification, that question, Catherine. So opportunity to pull, I'm seeing none.
Steve Berto does have his hand up, the virtual and.
Let's see, again, Mark, who?
Steve Berto, Director Berto.
Steve, yes, please.
Yeah, Director Goins, I'd like to motion to move the consent calendar.
Excellent. We have a second.
I'll second.
Barbara Kohler,
Kohler.
second. Thank you. Motion and second. Let's call the roll, please.
Salinas Fire District.
Aye.
City of Mill Valley.
Aye.
City of San Rafael.
Aye.
City of Larkspur.
Aye.
County of Marin. County of Marin. Let's see. I'll call County of Marin one more time. Okay, Inverness Fire District.
Aye.
Marinwood Community Services District.
Aye.
Muir Beach Community Services District.
Aye.
Novato Fire District.
Aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District.
Aye.
Thank you. Southern Marin Fire District.
Aye.
Denson Beach Fire District.
Aye.
Town of Corte Madera,
Aye.
Town of Fairfax,
Aye.
Town of Ross,
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo,
Aye.
and the motion passes.
Thank you, Allison. Thanks so much. Thanks, board. Really wonderful. We're moving things along very, very handily here. And this is a substantial consent calendar. I'm really proud of what we're doing and the work that our legal counsel did. And Anne, you're here. Thank you so much for all the great work you're doing. Let's move on to staff reports. Item number 7. Let's see, Alicia Schiffman, Finance.
Yes, hello. So we have last year's report and the current year's new report. And last year is not final yet, but it's pretty darn close. The revenues came in at 212,000 over what was budgeted. And the expenditures were 86% of what was budgeted. And we can expect to have at least 9 million left over that can be used for the dry period loan that we won't need to take in December before the property tax comes in. And then we'll convene with the board about how they want to designate those funds. And we have the audit is on the calendar for September. And at that time also we'll bring you the final fiscal year 21 report. And let's see what else I want to tell you. Just that everything that's read in that report, there's nothing concerning. We paid more for D-Space and local because the revenue was more. And that's about all I have. I'll take any questions.
Okay, Alyssa, thank you. Board members, any questions or comments? Let's see, I see Julie, please. Julie McMillan.
Thank you. I'm just wondering why the revenue was higher than what was originally projected.
Mark might have more insight into that than I do. I don't know, but I don't expect it will be that much higher next time as people get more familiar with the exemption process. We might have more exemptions or.
And the revenue came up higher just because that what we put as anticipated revenue, since this was the first year of the tax, was very draft, and NBS did an analysis with an estimation. And then when we got to actual revenues, that's how we got the difference. And we anticipate very little difference between actual and real next year because we have this year's experience to fall back on.
Okay. Barbara.
I just want to add that at least for most of our cities, all our property tax came in higher this year. Not a huge amount higher, but I think we had all expected big downturns. But so for most cities that I've seen, and I know for Fairfax, property tax came in higher. So this was an unusual year where everybody expected we were going to take huge hits, and in fact, more properties got sold at higher assessments.
Thank you, Barbara. Other directors, questions or comments? Gabe.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, thanks, Alyssa, for the report. Two minor questions. One is, has the Citizen Oversight Committee had a chance to review the expense detail report, to see if the categorizations are, in line? I think Larry Chu had asked for that, like, for example, if 6005 is properly classified for evacuation and so forth. The second question is, maybe you could say a little more about the few line items where there was, a larger shortfall. So evac study, I think we only spent 13%, and chipper, we only spent 62. And I'm wondering if that was just a matter of procurement, or, if we anticipate the same thing in the upcoming year.
I can touch on most of those if you don't mind. And and I'm working with Elisa on this, compiling the requested information for the Citizens Oversight Committee. Larry did send us a detailed request list, which was fantastic. And so we're compiling that for them. So they haven't looked at it yet, but we will be giving them the information before the audit is done. And then once the audit is done, they'll be able to complete their package. When it comes to the evacuation study, the reason why there so much was underspent was that we had anticipated issuing the RFP last fiscal year, but due to timing it with Zonehaven, it pushed it later. So we're rolling over that funding from fiscal 2021 to 21-22. And the underfunding or the revenue for chipper days, we anticipate some billing to come through to catch up because we increased that amount in order to fund this spring. So we're still anticipating an invoice from Fire Safe Marin to cover that amount. But it's likely that it will come in under budget.
So Mark, essentially the work that we didn't get done, we're budgeting and allocating for the upcoming year. So the catch up will all happen. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. And thank you, Mark. Other directors' questions for Alyssa? And I am seeing none. Thank you, Alyssa. Let's move on to item 7B, which is the work plan update. And Anne Krelock, staff report, please. Looking forward to it.
Great. Hi. Thank you, Chair Goins and Mark and everyone. So since my last update in June to the board on the work plan implementation, I've been working really closely with our consultants, Panorama and Sequoia, and Caitlin and Tanya from Panorama are on this call today to continue coordinating with all our member agencies and our partner agencies to complete environmental compliance for several core projects. We continue to prioritize projects that represent low-hanging fruit, those that have very high public safety benefit, but still have a very low or no potential for affecting the environment. We've been working on developing GIS layers, conducting database searches, and conducting various types of environmental analyses, reviewing scientific literature where we need to, and incorporating that science into our analysis, and working closely with legal counsel. Panorama and Sequoia have been working tirelessly to conduct these studies and deserve a lot of kudos for their hard work. So a big thank you to Tanya and Caitlin right now. Just want to give you a shout out. Thank you. Similarly, we also really appreciate the responsiveness of our member agencies while helping us determine what the scopes are of all of these proposals and complete the analysis related to their projects. So this board will continue to see projects that are exempt from CEQA listed on the consent calendar, accompanied by many, many pages of supporting documentation. So in addition, MWPA staff continues to review the ecologically sound practices document in terms of MWPA's roles and responsibilities, allowable expenses under Measure C, and we're working with counsel and consultants on that. And in the interest of implementing some of these suggested practices right away, we've been working with Panorama and Sequoia to draft project design and implementation features, which are measures that will be standard parts of any projects that they apply to. And as an example of that, scheduling work outside of nesting bird season where it's feasible, or conducting nesting bird surveys ahead of vegetation maintenance crews, going in and doing work along roads when that work happens within the nesting season. That's all standard practice and incorporated into our projects. We're working on a project webpage that will act as a tool for the public to find out what MWPA funded projects and are planned and where. And this effort is really being fast-tracked in an effort to be open with the public and transparent. We're also continuing to collaborate with partners such as Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy to track vegetation treatments on the landscape and link this to a future dashboard measuring our progress. These efforts will be a continued collaboration between our environmental consultants, our web developers, and the Conservancy and other partners. Panorama, Sequoia, and I are also now meeting monthly with interested stakeholders, particularly members of the Ecologically Sound Practices group, to share information about upcoming projects, hear their ideas and concerns, and answer questions about the work that we're doing. And then As you know, the MWPA will be managing a JPA-wide defensible space and home hardening grant program, while several member agencies will also manage their own Measure C funded grant programs. And I began meeting with several member agencies over the last week or so to discuss their existing programs and begin the process of designing and implementing our own program. And I'm working with Mark now to start looking for a part-time contract help to help manage this program. So it'll be a big lift. And then with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ann. Hi, David.
There's my mute button. Thank you, Ann. That's a great report. I just wonder on the grant program, will you be seeking matching grants or funds from outside of the MWPA revenues?
Mark can address that a little bit. We do have a grant application in with CAL FIRE for additional funds to do more of this good work. Mark, do you want to address that one?
Yeah, absolutely. It's 1.98 million we've requested that would support low income, access and functional need DSpace grants. And as revenues for home hardening grants or grants for home hardening open up, we'll be applying for those as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David.
And Director Kurtz has a virtual hand up.
Director Kurtz and Sashi after that.
Thank you very much. And Alyssa, thank you both for the staff reports. I know that the finance one was a little bit different than what we have done in the past. It's really helpful to have the narrative with it and also with the work plan update. In terms of dashboards, so dashboard's a term that's used a lot. And I'm wondering if, and you may not have the answer at this point, but as part of the work that's going towards the website in terms of listing the individual projects, if that will also include sort of a summary level, fairly easy, quick to be able to sort of absorb what's happening across the board. So that was one piece. And then the second question I have is around the grant program as well. And I'm wondering, I know you have to staff up for it and think about it and everything else, but we know there's definitely a need out in the communities right now. And I'm wondering if the thought is that it would happen for this season. Are you looking to direct the agencies to handle a grant program individually, independently of this prior to this being happening? So I'm wondering a little bit around if there's a interim solution around the grant program or suggestion. And then the last question around the sort of into the staff reports piece, will the cities be reporting at a financial level the same way we're seeing it? Are you expecting each city to be tracking it at that same reporting level to go into the overall reporting? Sorry, that was a lot of questions. So it was I just
and I can handle this if you like.
Okay.
But if you wanted to be, I could give you a one answered question or one worded answer to all three, and it's yes. But I can expand with that dashboard. We do expect to have a brief summary of each project. We also will have pictures to go along to tell a story for the projects, as well as that dashboard, number one. Number two, for the grant programs, we have many of our local agencies who have included grant programs within their structure. So they will be able to continue, and they plan to continue offering those grants. So yes, the MWPA override program should be up and running for this season. And yes, the member agencies will be able to function independently with their local grant programs. And we've already had one meeting with all of the agencies that have grant programs. We have a second one on the books. So we anticipate to move relatively quickly. And then for local member agency reporting, this is going to be a big coaching year for our local member agencies. But what we have asked them to do is to show budget reports that have revenue in from the MWPA and revenue out towards MWPA or mitigation projects related to MWPA.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Great questions. Thank you. Other questions for Ann or Mark?
Two virtual hands from
Let's
Directors
get-
McAfee and McMillan.
I see Sashi. Yes, Sashi.
Thank you. And Anne, thank you so much for your report. And it's just really great to have you on board and have, have an additional brain on this. I really liked that you're, looking at the sort of high impact, low hanging fruit type projects, but just wondering, do you think it's going to be typical that even for notices of exemptions that we're going to have to file 30 pages worth of backup? I mean, because it seems like that's the whole point, is to not have to, I mean, unless you think that there's a way to kind of streamline that and that's not onerous. Like, can you kind of talk about how we can move on from there? And yeah, so once we get more complex, it's going to be even more than that.
Yes, that's certainly true. Yeah, that the trend in recent years has really been to file a notice of exemption and have maybe on file an extensive memo detailing why you think none of the exclusions apply to your project. It's, for us, we're creating templates. So we have a number of evacuation route type projects. We have a number of we had several chipper program projects. We have several shaded fuel break projects, and grazing projects. And we're creating a template for each one of those types of projects. So each bucket, and then once you do one, it's actually quite easy to start doing the others. Obviously the biological resources and the potential for sensitive species varies from site to site. Things like that, but it becomes quite efficient to do that. And we're trying to set a precedent of being really thorough and thoughtful as we move forward, and making sure that everything we do is just rock solid in terms of legal exposure, et cetera. So yeah, we're just being very, very thorough.
Thank you.
Great question, Sashi. Mark, did anyone else have their hand up? Did I miss that? I'm sorry.
Julie.
Hey, Julie.
Julie, oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne. That was a great report. And the environmental documents that were included on the consent calendar were so professional and so well done and so thorough. So I commend you and Sequoia and Panorama for all that work. You had mentioned that you and the consultants are meeting monthly with ESP people. And I'm just wondering, thank you for anticipating and doing that. I think that's a great way to diffuse issues before they become bigger issues. I'm just wondering if you can share a little bit about the flavor of your initial meeting with that group and how it went and how you're anticipating things will go in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. We're approaching it with an eye towards building relationships, making sure there are no surprises for either us or for them, and really getting to know what any concerns are. So the meetings have been informative in that we're sharing as much project information as we can in that moment. So trying to meet with interested stakeholders before each, a couple weeks before each of these board meetings, so that they know what types of projects will be on consent or on the regular calendar, and talk about them to the extent that we can. And then listen to what their concerns are. And, a lot of the concerns are just generally protecting natural resources, nesting birds and things like that. So those are all values that we're baking into all of our projects moving forward. So, I think it'll be just a really useful venue to hear what concerns are, and for them to hear what we're doing and build that trust, I think, as we move forward. We wanted to establish those relationships before we tackle any of the bigger, more complex projects, and really get that going sooner rather than later.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Great question, Julie. Thank you, Anne, for all the hard work. Any other questions or comments from directors? Hi, David. Yes.
It's a comment. I just wanted to thank Anne and Mark, and I think probably you too, Bruce. We talked earlier about all of the initiatives, we could take a step in the direction of more stewardship of the land and the ecology or less. And when I listen to this, we're clearly taking a step in the direction of paying attention to our natural resources. And that really comes through, and I didn't want that to go unsaid. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Really a high standard we're setting here. I find myself thinking about the Remy Moose and Manley investigations, questions as to work that we needed to do, and that we need to provide substantial evidence for decisions that we made. And the 30-page, as Sashi said, 35 page documentation is the embodiment of substantial evidence. And I just really love the standard that we're setting here, and that we now have some templates we can work from, and then we can focus on the plants and the vertebrates and what have you, and customize. But really, it is indeed protection and stewardship. So I'm just so proud and so happy with what we're doing here. Just really fabulous work. Any other directors? Mark, can you, hands I'm not seeing? Let's move to public comment. Mark, did I jump you, Mark?
No, I forgot to hit unmute. No hands.
Okay, let's move to public comment, please.
Looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, well, let's come back to the board here for any further discussion. And it looks like we've covered it all. Let's move on to committee reports. So we're going to receive reports from Fire Safe Marin and the MWPA Operations Committee and Advisory Technical Committee. I'd suggest that if we can go through the reports and take questions at the end, just to facilitate things, if that's okay with you all. So Rich, I see that you're here. Thanks for a great written report. And what do you have to add?
Get my video back on here. There we go. Here we go. Great. I think the report's really self-explanatory. In the interest of time, I won't go through it all. But I'm really proud to say that I think we completed, and in fact, I think in most cases exceeded all of the 19 projects Fire Safe Marin has proposed. And I really want to thank, this could not have happened without a fantastic staff, some really good support from some great consultants and many partner agencies that we work with. I won't take the time to list everybody, but that's really what made it all possible. And we're very excited about going forward to the next year. I think the one small thing we'd add that is more contemporary is we do have a little bit of an update on the chipper program. Other than that, I think it's self-explanatory. I could take questions at the end.
Thanks you for your fabulous work. That's getting nothing but great compliments and really helping motivate people to get some work done and make those places safer. So wonderful. Let's hold questions onto the operations, please. And who do we have reporting? Is it Stephen?
Bruce,
welcome.
if I may interrupt, we do have Stephen Peters to give a specific update on the chipper program as part of the Fire Safe Marin update.
Oh, okay. Stephen, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'll be very brief. Good to meet you all. I'm Stephen, along with Brendan. We're taking over running the program for 2021. Just really quick update. We're about 7 weeks in. We have 15 left for a total of 22 weeks. As of right now, we've served just over 1,000 homes and pulled out 4,700 cubic yards of debris. We anticipate far exceeding the 2,300 pickups that we service in the entire 2020 season, and we anticipate pulling out roughly 25,000 cubic yards of debris from Marin residences. We're really happy with how the program's expanding. In our post-service survey, we have roughly 98% of all who take the survey have given us 5 stars, and we have received a lot of feedback in the past month. Both between Brendan and I have had conversations with over 350 residents and have been able to solve all problems. And if you look at the slides that are provided on the agenda, you'll see some of the highlights from that. But other than that, if you have any questions, I can take them at the end of the reports.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So we'll hold questions. Ready to move on to the operations.
And I'll cover the operations and advisory technical. They have not met since our last meeting. They have just been convening that or getting the membership for the ad hoc subcommittee for objectives and metrics.
Okay, so Mark, you're saying that they're working on the metrics that will guide our monitoring and future program development, project development.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Mark. That was quite a great summary.
But that doesn't mean that they aren't busy right now implementing their local mitigation projects and core projects and getting or preparing to implement them. That's mostly on the advisory technical committee, working as employees of our local member agencies.
Everyone is busy. They're exceedingly busy. Yes. So let's go back to the board. Any questions about these reports from Fire Safe Marin or Ops or ATC? David.
Just a quick question for Stephen. I know that, for example, in Bolinas, we've added 4 chipper days in addition to the 2 provided by Fire Safe Marin. And I'm wondering if we can outreach to any agencies that have added chipper days and incorporate the volume so we have a countywide estimate of, count of how much volume we've pulled out of we've created.
That's something I think we're still working on. I haven't personally incorporated any extra chipper days into our seating program. Not to say that we can't. Rich, do you have any clarification on that?
Yeah, I guess first would be a question, David. Are you planning to have people register like we do for the program?
Yeah, we do, and we've had 2 chipper days, and there's still that are sponsored by Bolinas Fire, and still 2 more to go. I'm just thinking about getting a countywide for the metrics, so that we know in total what.
I guess my only point was going forward. If you want to, you could register through our site,
I see.
Which would still be for Bolinas,
yeah.
And that also creates the opportunity to capture the yardage and whatnot. So maybe you can follow up with Stephen and we could talk about how to make that happen.
Stephen, I'll pass that along to George Krakauer, our chief. Thank you.
Great, I'll look for that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, David. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, wonderful. Let's see. Where are we now? Are we up to informational items?
Well, public comment for.
Oh, public comment. Yes, I'm sorry. I scrolled too quickly. Allison?
I'm looking for any raised hands from our audience members. And there is no public comment.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Thank you all. Let's move on to item 9, informational items. So in addition to the minutes and education item listed on the agenda, does staff, do you have any informational items?
Well, Bruce, we do have the 2 meeting minutes included, and we can field any questions, and then I can move forward with the educational content if you would like.
Okay. So we have the June 3rd Executive Committee meeting minutes and acknowledging Citizens Oversight Committee minutes. And if I assume that, let's just go ahead and move on to the education item.
Okay. And this is the item that the board and the executive committee had asked that we include in each of our meetings. 10 minutes of education, 5 minutes of Q&A. And during the executive committee, we had hoped that we would be able to have the educational item be a walkthrough of a DSpace evaluation with the app and take it cradle to grave from the inspection all the way to the app. But unfortunately, we weren't able to put that video together. So I bounced around a bunch of different ideas of what we could do and landed on. There's been a lot of interest in the video of the walkthrough of Skyhawk following the glass fire. And I think there's a couple key concepts that, as good as that video turned out from the editing, I think there's a couple key concepts that I wanted to focus on a little bit more that helps emphasize our house out approach and how we as the MWPA can really help with education and focus our work to help save more homes and lives. So with no further ado, I'll start the presentation, and I will be really quick about this. This slide is just solely meant to help create a timeline A quiet evening in the backyard at my house at 8:08. Hearing that the fire had spotted into a spot that would be a threat to Santa Rosa. I was at the command post by 9:15 and getting ready to leave the command post a little bit after 9:20, closer to 9:30. Again, just kind of setting a timestamp here for you. Here is a map where the last two pictures I showed you is this pin way at the top right. And you see this large canyon and shaded that's just kind of lined up with the wind, and it pops over this ridge and then follows down. And most of that walk of the video, if you could see my cursor, was through this canyon, small canyon drainage in here. One problem about this image, it doesn't show houses that are currently developed right here. So just pretend that there's houses right there in this picture. But what I want to emphasize that wasn't emphasized in the video is community buffers. That has been a conversation that's been gaining a lot of traction. The Coastal Conservancy hosted a webinar in various areas of the state to discuss community buffers. This grassy knob, this small grassy ridge right here is actually open space near my community, and it's leased out to cattle for grazing. And I've walked by those cattle grazing many, many times and had that just back in my mind, that's a really good thing. And I think that there could be a lot of good benefit to this. Granted, it's only a very small section of my community had that benefit. In this video, you see extreme fire behavior in the heavy timber. But as the camera kind of pans down, you'll see the grass only has, in this video, you really see it, 6-inch to 12-inch flame lengths, and that's in that grazed grass. And so there is a marked benefit for the community buffer. And if you look closely, you also see embers flying back towards the fire. And that's because of the intensity of that fire was creating an indraft, and actually helped protect my community for a little while until the wind shifted and got the intensity of that main fire decreased. And now the prevailing wind took over, and this is what it looked and sounded like. And you're about to see something fly through the air right there. That could have just as easily have been something that was burning rather than something that wasn't burning. And this is at the very end of that road that had the community buffer, and where you're looking at, there is no community buffer there. And this next video is panning a little bit to the right. And this is just a little over 3 hours from that last picture. So 5 miles from where that first picture was, the 928 picture, to the 0048 picture, 5 miles in a little over 3 hours. And then this is just turning a little bit to the right from that last picture. And this is the fire going down that drainage and getting in behind homes. Here's a before picture of that drainage. And you see this resident here had done what they feel is really good veg management work. They've done weed eating through here. They have an open design, but no one told them in D-space evaluations, because we don't have them in my community, that gorilla hair is actually a bad thing. And so that fence burned down. Fortunately, it did not get to the home, but a good portion of that fence burned down because the embers hit that fence, landed in the gorilla hair, and burned the fence down. And unfortunately, no one told this resident post-fire that the gorilla hair is what burned their fence down, and they've replaced all the gorilla hair. Here is a picture that we talked about in the video. These homes have all been destroyed, and it really is because of this vegetation that was planted in a vertical and horizontal arrangement that allowed the fire to run up into this house. These houses were downwind. They were all destroyed, and one house upwind was destroyed. And you look at what this person had done, and unfortunately their neighbor 2 houses down negated all the work that they had done. And I like this picture because you see that this is where the grass had started regrowing post-fire, but where the house that had all the trees, there was so much heat and energy in there that the grass wouldn't regrow. And here is just a few days ago, after the houses have been, the debris from the houses have been removed, you still see that nothing was able to grow because of how much heat was generated in there. And this is just an example of every one of the houses burned down like that. It was embers that got into the attic and the house burned down from the top down. I like this picture a lot. And the reason why I like it is, with the exception of this house here and one house over here, no suppression activities at all. And all those houses survived. And that had a lot to do with the vegetation management that was in and around those homes. And from this cul-de-sac to your right, those are all homes that are built to the new 7A standards. So blocked eaves, the correct venting. All the homes from here left, older style construction, 1/4-inch eaves, eave vents. And all the homes that were destroyed were with eave vents that were 1/4-inch. This is the opposite view of that picture. And again, all these homes up here, with the exception of one, no suppression activity to save those homes. Their vegetation management under extreme fire conditions saved those homes. And this is the one house that it's a newer construction. The reason why this deck got going is they had red dyed bark. So artificially dyed bark, and with total consumption, ignited this deck. But the new style of building construction allowed that home to survive. Yes, there was suppression effort, but you could see how much heat the side of that house took, and it still did not get into the attic. And I'll pretty much close with this. This is my favorite picture, and it wasn't in the video, but you really had to know what you were looking for. You see these 4 homes, this white one, there's one behind the trees, and these 2 right here, with 3 very distinct styles of defensible space. This home, it's manicured terraced garden for a couple 100 feet down. These people love gardening, and that's how they enjoy their time. That house survived with virtually no suppression effort. This house, very lush trees around the house, but when you walk through the property, you will notice that trees are all limbed up, no flammable vegetation underneath it. And it's hard to see in this picture, but there's separation in the canopies. Again, no suppression efforts. And then these 2 houses, they have a much more open style of design, including one deck that did get some embers in it that there had to be suppression efforts on the deck. But the home survived with minimal suppression efforts. And all these homes were built in the 70s. And I do not think they have received upgrades in the vents. It was just D-space that really saved their homes. And I forgot my favorite topic. This is that last house over on the right that was the last of the houses that burned down in the batch of 5. And then you had these unburned houses. And I'm like, okay, why were these unburned houses? And then we started getting burned houses again. And it's these 3 Italian cypress, I'm convinced, right there. If you look at this picture, there they are, the skeletons of Italian cypress. And I was up here under similar wind conditions as that night, and they were exactly in line with the house. And I said in the video, I would bet a paycheck that those cypress are what burned those 3 houses down right there. And I'm open. I hope I kept that in 10 minutes for you all. I hope I didn't bore you to tears, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Board members, thanks for the great visuals. Thank you so much. Barbara, yes.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thanks for your sort of interpretation of why the house is burned. I think that's really helpful. And this may sound like a dopey question, but gorilla hair, I thought at least in Marin, it was illegal to even sell it. Am I wrong, or is it, you can still buy this stuff in Marin? Okay.
Unfortunately.
And so up in Santa Rosa, where they've had so many fires, there isn't some kind of effort to try to get the word out, or people just don't know? I mean, do you feel like you should walk over to your neighbors and say maybe you might want to reconsider that? Or
I've availed myself to any one of my neighbors that wish to have my opinion. I haven't necessarily forced my opinion on others. However, there are efforts to increase the awareness and efforts in a holistic fashion in Sonoma County. It's, as a resident in Sonoma County, it's disappointing that a county that's been impacted so much is still behind other counties in their efforts.
Yeah, just one. So since we can buy gorilla hair here, maybe one of the things, maybe this is something Fire Safe Marin could do, is do an educational campaign to the Home Depots and the hardware stores about not selling that. When I was at the Air District, we had requirements where you couldn't sell certain wood, etc. And we could issue citations, which I don't think we want to go there, but a lot of that stuff got removed from shelves after we had inspectors going out talking to folks. So I think, most people just don't know, and it looks like mulch. So that would be something that maybe we can take on at some point, an educational campaign to get that stuff at least voluntarily removed.
That's so very true. And that is actually one of the efforts that we will be undertaking with our agreement with the UC Cooperative Extension and the Marin Master Gardeners, is an outreach to our hardware stores, box stores, and also our nurseries, so that we're not selling the wrong vegetation. So that is part of the contract we're working on with the Cooperative Extension.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. Great presentation.
Thanks, Barbara. Great comment and suggestion. Let's see. I see Julie and Catherine. Hopefully I have the order correct.
I just wanted to mention, thank you, Mark, for mentioning the UCCE Marin Master Gardeners. They have been giving lots and lots of fire smart landscaping presentations and emphasizing that gorilla hair mulch is very, very bad. And I also wrote an IJ article about mulch fairly recently that discouraged people from using gorilla hair mulch. So that group is trying very hard to get the word out.
Thanks, Julie. Catherine.
Very, very quickly. Thank you so much, Mark, for that presentation. I was actually an administrator in Santa Rosa during the Tubbs fire, and we had the firewall that was built right there, and we fought it, but that saved some of the trailer park. My suggestion to you is to always put this information out there. I mean, that fire was horrible. My administrator and many physicians and many nurses lost their homes in Fountain Grove. And when it went over the freeway to Coffee Park and everything, it was devastating. So whatever you can do to continue to get the public to look at this information is amazing. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And what we're seeing is we have to diversify how we're messaging.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Mark. You're raising great points. I think it's important for us to realize that as an authority, our work plan included 54 staff that are knocking on doors and making observations, site-specific observations. And I think the formula is that we envision that within about 2 years and change, every single home will have received a site visit, and an experienced professional is going to talk to them about not just their gorilla hair, but their vents and their siding and their zone zero and roofing. And I just think this is fabulous. This is just really great. But Mark, this is really fascinating stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Other directors' comments? Okay. Thanks, Mark, for the preparation. I look forward to the future list of educational items. I think that's a product yet to be developed. Is it correct?
We'll be developing one for each month.
Okay. Let's take this to the public then for public comment.
I'll mute myself, Larry Minikes.
Welcome, Larry.
Time to speak. Mark, I have to say, every time you give one of these presentations before and after, I'm sitting here going, wow. And I would imagine that if a lot of the public, particularly the uninformed public, gets to see this, it really teaches you very quickly what works and what doesn't work. And so I would encourage more outreach to that point. And I'm also wondering why this board could not take some sort of formal action on gorilla hair to at least say something about it formally. And also the Board of Supervisors, sir, Dennis, if something could be done here to, I don't know if we can outlaw it. I don't know what the law is on here, but it seems like something formal could be done here on this and Italian Cypress in particular. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Larry, for your comments. Everyone's working on this, so wonderful. Any other comment, Allison?
That's it.
Bill Cole. Bell, you're muted.
Better?
There we go.
Okay, hi. Yes, very, very wonderful discussion, interesting. I just wanted to let everybody know that on July 20th, which is Tuesday, we're having a speaker from ESP is having a meeting, and Meg McCabe, Education Director of Fire Safe Marin, is going to be talking about this very subject, which is landscaping 101. She's going to be showing a video that they've put out on this very subject of what landscapers should know and what they do know. And they have worked with landscapers to create this. So you want to tune into that would be good. And I think, Mark, you could let people know about that event, which is taking place on Tuesday. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Other public comment, please.
I'm looking for any further raised hands from our audience members. And there's no public comment.
Excellent. So back to the board. Any further discussion? And seeing none. Okay, Mark, thanks for your preparation, and look forward to what we do in the future on education. So let's move to action item number 10. Item 10 is to elect a board president and vice president for fiscal year 21-22. So Mark, will you provide a staff report, please, on this item, how we want to approach it?
Absolutely. And you know what? I think this is part of our maturation process. We are closing the first term of our first president. I think this is a big step for us. We recommend, staff recommends that we have a conversation or open up the floor to any member of the board who wishes to say, you know what, I'd be interested in president, or I'd be interested in vice president, and to talk about their interests and their intent in that position. And then after we've heard, we'll take it one step at a time. After we've heard about people who are interested in president, we can entertain a motion, and then we can take that next step for the vice president. So Bruce, would you like to proceed in that fashion?
Yeah, I think it's probably be logical to separate the president election and the vice president selection and do them separately.
Okay.
So you're suggesting that either self-declare or nominations, is that correct?
Self-declare as far as expressing interest.
Okay.
And then we would seek a motion to create a nomination.
Okay.
And we also could, if anyone doesn't self-declare, perhaps a board member may make a suggestion for someone to. And I see a hand raised with Catherine Hilliard.
My feeling is that we have gotten through this first year with the great guidance of Bruce Goins and also Supervisor Rodoni, and that we've come a long way. And I would like to suggest that we continue a second year with these two. And I personally would like to thank them for the in-depth and incredible amount of time that they've, no offense, Supervisor Rodoni, you put in a lot of time, but working with Bruce and the formation of committees and all of the things that have happened. And we've come so far in 1 year. So I would like to nominate Bruce Goins for a second term as president.
Second.
And I see Barbara Kohler with her hand up.
Well, thank you, Catherine, for bringing that up because those are my exact thoughts. I think we have gotten through the first year, and I know Bruce and Dennis have spent a lot of time. Bruce in particular, I think, goes to every meeting that he can and does a lot of work behind the scenes that not all of us see. And I really do think continuing the leadership is really a good idea for our second year. I think as we evolve, it may be an opportunity the next year to look at different folks, but I think we have gotten really far. So I want to thank you, Catherine, for bringing that up, and much more eloquent than me, but I completely agree with your assessment and same thoughts here.
And I think I saw Director Donahue with her hand up, and then Steve Burdo.
Yes, I deeply believe that continuation is important, and we're on a great track. So I would recommend keeping the leadership as is.
Director Burdo?
Yeah, I'm basically just gonna second the comments everybody had made. And Bruce, I apologize because I meant to call you this week to let you know that I would suggest that you reapply and hold the chair again. I think you've done a phenomenal job, and Dennis as the vice chair. I think Barbara really put it, kind of the way I feel. I think, to continue with this leadership for at least another year, I think that makes a lot of sense. And if, we always want to be developing our bench and looking for other people. But right now, we just got our legs under us. I think it makes a lot of sense to keep the leadership in the way it is. And again, I think you guys done a fabulous job.
And if I may offer, Bruce has set a pace and a standard that I'm not sure very many people can do. And I would argue that it will be hard for Bruce to continue that pace for another year as well. And I know Bruce and I have had very open and honest conversations regarding about that. And that's, I think, a testament to Bruce is that he and I can have those conversations. And Bruce, I'll just pass it off to you because you have been developing a plan on how we can go from build out to presiding for the president.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, number one, I want to thank you all for your kind comments. This touches my heart. This is, it's just been an honor to serve as your board president. For me as a professional, as a firefighter and a forester, and then managing programs for hundreds of communities that would benefit. It's just a unbelievable opportunity for me to be actually sit down and be a part of this community that is really advancing, I think, the thinking, the models, the approaches, and I think we're really pushing the needle, and we will come out of this much safer, much less hazard, much less risk. So I'm really thank you, and I'm honored. I'd be honored to serve another year, and to do so with Dennis. I also think that Steve's comment about building that bench, I do think that we need to be cognizant of what our tasks are, who's responsible for what. I see last year was standing up and building it out. This year is a transitional year where we're starting to move into implementation, but we're not finished building it out. And then I see 22, 23 that we're going to be kind of in an operational, where we'll be operating and fully functioning. We'll be monitoring and evaluating and just making sure. So, this is a transitional year. I've taken the time with some staff to put together a couple of analyses. This spreadsheet here, and thank you, those of you who helped me with this, it's a list of the tasks that we've done. There's 45 of them. It's full of verbs, which is all action. This is who was responsible last year, who I envision responsible this year, and who I envision being responsible in year 3. The president was really kind of the lead for about 10 items in last year. And I see the president being the lead for about 4 to 5 this year and transitioning those out. And then next year down to probably 3 items, which means basically to governance position. So I'd like time to share this with you. And secondly, I took time with a handful of you also to identify what are our strategic challenges yet that we have ahead of us. And what do they think, what are the operational things? We have about 16 operational things in motion. And my concern, and I've talked with Mark and I've talked with several board members, is that we have all these pieces, but we don't have an implementation plan or a critical paths course or whatever it is. And so I would like to serve as president again this year. I'd like to bring this work to the executive committee. And I'd like to suggest that we form a team composed of ops, ATC, and the 5 geographic areas, and work in supporting Mark and Ann in building out the organization and building out an implementation plan. We've got all the pieces. I'm just concerned that we've got so many pieces in motion. We don't know exactly what's going to land when, who's responsible, and what we do as a backup. So I'd love to have another year to serve as your president. So thanks for the opportunity.
Bruce,
I'm
you'll need to
muted.
take public comment before we can entertain that motion, please.
And
Bruce, if I may, too.
Yes, Dennis.
Sure, I just want to support the motion that's before us to reelect Bruce. He's done a tremendous job this year. I quite honestly don't know that any of the rest of us could have followed in his footsteps anyway this year. And the job he did this past year has been tremendous. And I mostly want to thank all of you for having been here every month, helped us build this organization, and supported Bruce and I, but mostly my role with Bruce has been supporting him because he's done most of the work, and I just want to personally thank him. I'm quite glad to serve again as vice president, but I've already discussed with Bruce about what the next president might have to be doing, because I don't think anyone can follow in his footsteps, quite honestly. And I'm glad that he's looking at a plan that could really make this a governance position and let the staff run with the rest of the responsibilities. But I really want to thank Bruce for what he's done, because I know the amount of hours that he's put in this organization. Will be forever grateful for helping to start it up, helping to run it, and to all of you to making it so efficient. I mean, I think for an organization to be where we are in just a little over a year is just amazing. And you should be very proud of all of yourselves and the organization itself. And thanks to Mark and his team. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, Dennis. Steve, I see you having, Steve Berto, please.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, or would suggest that we amend the motion on the floor, since it seems we have unanimous consent on chair and president and vice president. If we could amend the motion to just take them both in one fell swoop here.
And to Megan's point, we actually need to go to public comment, and then we can have the motion for that. And so we'll have that opportunity, I think, at that point.
Right.
Megan, correct? Okay.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Megan. So let's go to public comment, please. Alice.
Larry Minikes.
Just briefly, I agree 1,000% with what everyone is saying here. And I also just want to add, not only has Bruce been a great president and a great leader, but a tremendous teacher and mentor. And I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Larry. Any other? Pat Randolph. Hi, Pat.
Hi, I too just want to second everything that everybody has said. I feel like this organization has come so far from the original vision that the grand jury had. And I can't imagine that we would have gotten to where we are without such sterling leadership from both Bruce and Supervisor Rodoni and Mark and Ann, that I think you've just built a wonderful team. And I, for one, would be delighted to see it happen for another year. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, for your kind words for all of us. Any other public comment, please?
Looking for any additional raised hands. And there is no further public comment.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
But I could I amend my motion?
Yes.
I would like to move that we re-elect President Bruce Goines and Vice President Dennis Rodoni for this coming year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Salinas Fire District,
Overwhelmingly, aye.
City of Mill Valley,
Aye.
City of San Rafael,
Aye.
City of Larkspur,
Aye.
County of Marin,
Aye.
Inverness Fire District,
Absolutely, aye.
Marinwood Community Services District,
Aye.
Muir Beach Community Services District,
Aye.
Novato Fire District,
I say aye, aye, aye.
Sleepy Hollow Fire District,
Aye.
Southern Marin Fire District,
Aye.
Stinson Beach Fire District,
Aye for both.
Town of Corte Madera,
Aye.
Town of Fairfax,
Aye.
Town of Ross,
Aye.
Town of San Anselmo.
Emphatically aye.
And the motion passes with 100%.
Thank you. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Okay. We're on a roll. Let's keep rolling forward. Let's just keep it moving. You, the board, are fantastic. The comments, the work that was done ahead, Barbara, your stuff, fixing contracts, dealing with the details, and Catherine and others. I know that Julie, all of you, Sashi, your contributions that are silent contributions before that are never spoken. Let's just keep this board, flourishing. Everyone has spoke their mind. Everyone, makes a difference, and this is just fabulous. I'm thrilled. I'm just thrilled. I'm looking forward to this coming.
Bruce, can I just add one thing?
Yes.
First of all, thank both of you, but I also want to say I sit on a lot of boards, and one with even more board members than this one, and I have never seen so much participation from board members. Most people are at every meeting unless there's something unforeseen that they really cannot do. So we usually have a huge turnout, no problem with quorums. And I also want to thank Jason Weber and Dan Schwartz, who really kept the ball rolling when we first started. And also Jean Bonander, who we were fortunate to get to fill in. I don't know what we would have done during the fires last year if we didn't have Jean. So, it's a great board, people really working together and learning to work together, coming from disparate backgrounds. And so we've been really lucky, and the amount of work that's been done is just phenomenal. So, and we were great to get Mark on board, and now Anne. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Thank you so much. Okay, are we ready to move on to future agenda items? I see, yes. So any board members have requests for future agenda items? I would like to reiterate the advanced work that many of us have done to put together what we've accomplished and gaming out last year, this year, and next year. And then also the list of all the operational things that we have going that we bring to the executive committee, the suggestion that we put together a team to help Mark and Ann build out a critical paths plan and an implementation plan to make sure that we know exactly what we're going to do when, who's going to do what, and make sure that we're keeping track of all of these moving parts. So with your permission, I'd like to bring that to the executive committee this next month. I say Dennis and Catherine.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Just discussing the election, it got me thinking about succession and some of the conversations that you're embarking on too, Bruce. And I think it would do this organization well to perhaps add a second vice president position to sort of build that bench that Steve talked about. So I think it involved the JPA language, I believe. So it may take a while, but just something that maybe the executive committee could discuss and then bring it back to the board.
Dennis, that sounds great. And let's just remember that last month, Rachel Rachel suggested that we put together a team to talk about governance and address those very questions. And so it was Rachel's original suggestion. I think we were all a little ambivalent about it at the time, but I think as we look forward, the wisdom of us putting a small team together to identify all those details and take whatever actions necessary the board can approve, and we can get that embodied wherever it needs to be embodied to make sure that we are indeed a little bit broader, a little bit deeper in our and more intentional in some of our actions regarding governance and recruitment. So that's a great idea. Sound good. Thank you, Rachel, by the way, and thanks, Dennis. And Catherine.
Yes, very briefly, I really appreciate what you showed with your matrix and benchmarks and everything. And I heard that it's going to go to the executive committee, but I would like to see it come to the rest of the board as well.
Yes.
I have noticed that there's some action items on the minutes and everything that have probably been captured in the executive committee forum, but not really disseminated back to the board. And I would like to see that coming back for us.
Absolutely, Mark, if you can, and Megan, however we want to handle that. You know, I don't think there's anything precluding Mark from sending information out, but we can figure that out. This is where it is. I've spent a lot of hours on it, and as have many of you. So whatever makes sense, absolutely. You're welcome to it. I'd send it to you all right now, but I am familiar with the Brown Act, not making a decision. But whatever we need to do, I'm happy to send this out with the do not reply all, whatever makes the most sense.
Thank you.
So Mark, maybe
you
you
have a hand up from a virtual hand up from Director Hilliard.
Catherine.
I just wanted to say that after reading the minutes from the executive committee in the packets and the finance committee recommendations through our finance, I want to compliment the committee people as well for the work that they do, bringing it all forward. And that I just wanted to say thank you to the members of the executive committee and the finance committee. So thank you and everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks so much. And Mark, maybe going back to Catherine Donahue's suggestion, you have both of these documents, I believe. And so perhaps we can just discuss, there's no reason not to disseminate. There's nothing secret. This is all work that's being done. It's a work in progress. But so whatever makes sense, I'm certainly comfortable. Let's come down to you and Megan.
Yeah, I'm happy to work with Mark on getting it to everyone and then also making it publicly available as appropriate.
Great. Wonderful. It's a work in progress. Okay. Well, at that, any future agenda items? Thank you. Oh, no. Okay. Seeing none. So it's 4:40 p.m. and it is really my honor and privilege to adjourn this great board, the meeting, and just I'll carry on and have a great evening. Thank you so much. The next meeting will be August 19th, 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Great, Mark. It looks like we hit the minute and the hour and 30, pretty close.
We were pretty close. Yeah.
Good job.
Congrats.
I am thrilled.
Congratulations.
I am thrilled that the consent calendar went through, that